This is a follow-up to the live stream I did yesterday where I asked you guys the question, should P.E.D'S be legalized in boxing? There was a great response to the live stream. Obviously, there was the usual hysterical types, the outrage mob, the grown men who act like Greta Thunberg. How dare you? Some guy would say, how dare you even ask the question? I'm not going to watch the video. Those types. You got to put your big boy pants on to come to this channel. You can't be some little ninny, upset and hysterical and outraged by everything. Like, grow a pair. Anyway, the reason I asked the question, should P.E.D'S be legalized in boxing, I made clear in the intro of the live stream, so I really shouldn't have to reiterate it here. But again, there were some people in the comments acting as though my position is that I think they should be legalized. No, that's not my position. I said at the very start of the live stream, that is their position, not mine. And later on in the stream, I said that I don't want P.E.D'S to be legalized in mainstream pro boxing because it would become a freak show. You'd have a bunch of Frankenstein monsters walking around, and I don't want to see that. I want to see what human beings can do naturally. That's what interests me. I don't have as much interest in seeing a bunch of lab-created Frankenstein monsters fight each other. Now, the counter to that would be, we already have that, right? The world of boxing is full of these Frankenstein monsters. People believe the majority of top pro boxers are juicing. But presumably, if you legalize P.E.D'S, the use of them would become more extreme, especially among the top guys, because they'd be totally unrestricted. They wouldn't have to be trying to get around any tests or anything like that. So they would become even bigger Frankenstein monsters. So my point still stands. I don't want to see it because it would be a freak show. But the reason I asked the question and opened it up to you guys, my subscribers, is because I've never done any deep research into P.E.D'S. My knowledge of P.E.D'S is relatively superficial. I've never been particularly interested in the subject. Whenever I see one of these fighters that gets popped for whatever, it's usually the first time I've ever heard of the substance. I'm always impressed by many people among my subscriber base who seem to have tremendous knowledge of all these substances. I didn't realize that P.E.D'S was such an interesting subject to a lot of people. I'm not in the best position to play devil's advocate and try and argue the point that P.E.D'S should be legalized. So I want to open the floor up to my audience and ask you guys the question. So the more knowledgeable people about P.E.D'S who think they should be legalized can put forward that particular argument in a more convincing way than I can. That's why I wanted to ask the question. There's this whole safety aspect whereby the people who say that P.E.Ds shouldn't be legalized think it will be far more unsafe in boxing, whereas the people who think it should be legalized think it would actually be safer. And so I don't have enough knowledge of P.E.Ds to know, for example, the difference between the cheaper stuff and the more expensive stuff, how effective it is. Because one of the arguments is that in strongman and bodybuilding, for example, the top guys spend an enormous amount of money on the best P.E.Ds, like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And therefore, the guys with less money can't compete with that. And they argue that the same thing would happen in boxing if you legalize P.E.Ds. So you haven't actually leveled the playing field at all. But then I saw someone in the comment section who said, no, that's not the case. The reason that the top guys in strongman and what was the other one? Bodybuilding, the reason why they spend so much money is because they have to put on so much bulk. Boxers wouldn't have to gain that much mass. It would actually be counterproductive for them to gain that much mass. So they're not going to be spending as much money as these, strongmen and bodybuilders. That was the counter. So again, I haven't thought about it as deeply as some of these other guys because that's really not my world. I've never been I don't even take supplements. I've never even taken like creatine and all that kind of pre and post workout. I've never been a weights guy. I've always been a boxing guy. When I was working as a bouncer, there were people taking all kind of sprays under their tongue and pills and injecting stuff and all this kind of stuff. I was never into all that. So those of you who are into that, I want to hear from you. You explain. You make the case for PEDs being legalized in boxing. You argue the case that it's safer if everybody's on them rather than if only the top guys are on them. Again, it's not my argument. However, there is somebody that all of you know who also says that PEDs should be legalized in boxing. He goes by the name of Tyson Fury. Oh yes, Tyson Fury advocated legalizing PEDs in all sports, including boxing, back in 2015. He said, quote, "Why don't they just make drugs totally legal in sports? Then everybody would be taking drugs, then it would be fully fair, wouldn't it? The old-fashioned ways ain't the ways. So I'm all open for drugs because if we want to go forward in life and be in a democratic world, it means we have to be open to different things. If the governing bodies want to do that, then I think it would be a bit fairer because you've got all the people taking drugs. And when you face a man who's not taking drugs, it becomes unfair, doesn't it?" That was Tyson Fury live on BBC Radio 5 on November 23rd, 2015, 5 days before the Klitschko fight. Now, I posted this in the community section on my channel. And again, predictably, there were the Tyson Fury fanboys who are going into mental meltdown because I posted this. I mean, look, I'm just posting facts. One of them, he couldn't reconcile his perception of Tyson Fury, his warped perception of Fury, with the actual reality of what Fury had said. So when I posted this article, he came out and said, "This is fake news. How could you post fake news?" And he soon realized it wasn't fake news. And so after he realized he was wrong about fake news, and he didn't apologize, by the way, for accusing me of spreading fake news. I said, if you apologize, I won't block you. He accused me of spreading fake news. He was wrong. When that didn't work, he then said, "Oh, well, Fury was clearly having a mental breakdown at the time." Well, no, he wasn't, because he said this 5 days before the Klitschko fight. So you're wrong there. The final excuse he came out with is he said, "Oh, Fury was just being sarcastic." So you were wrong with the first excuse. You said I was spreading fake news. It's not fake. You were wrong about him having a breakdown at the time, because this was 5 days before the Klitschko fight. And so you scramble for the next excuse, which is, "Oh, he was just being sarcastic." I mean, it's just pathetic. Stop being such fanboys. The motto on my channel has always been, no fighter is below praise and no fighter is above criticism. And my motive for posting this regarding Tyson Fury wasn't even to have a go at Fury. It was just to show that there are people in boxing, including the current WBC World Heavyweight Champion, who think that PEDs should be legalized in the sport. So all the people that are outraged at me for even asking the question, are you as equally outraged at Tyson Fury? I bet a lot of you aren't. Some of you will be, but a lot of you won't be. A lot of you will now be scrambling, oh my God, because the outrage queens, that's what I'm going to call them, who were attacking me for even asking the question. Some of them were Fury fans, ironically. But when I post this, again, they go into complete mental meltdown and they can't reconcile the reality of what Fury said with their warped image of him in their heads. Anyway, this is one website, another one, reporting on the same thing. Fury thinks that drugs should be legalized in sport, including boxing. Again here, Tyson Fury boxing should lead the way in sport by legalizing drugs. Again here, legalize drugs in sports, says world title challenger. Again here, Tyson Fury insists drugs should be legalized in boxing to ensure a level playing field. Again here, Tyson Fury. And the original source of this quote was right here, the actual interview itself. For those saying that, well, you can't trust the mainstream media, I mean, you don't have to tell me that. Obviously, mainstream media are vile. However, unfortunately for the Fury fanboy cognitive dissonant types, they have the actual interview where Fury can be heard to say these words out of his very own mouth. So there's no doubt that Fury said it, right? But again, this is really not about me trying to have a go at Fury. It's just showing you that there are people, even world heavyweight champions, who think that PEDs should be legalized in boxing. So why are you looking at me like it's some extreme, crazy question to ask when one of the top guys in the sport is asking the same question openly? Now, obviously with Fury, he failed a test, which is kind of damning, but Fury served his ban. So, I'm not one of these people who's really a big advocate for banning drug cheats for life in boxing. And neither is Fury, by the way, because there's another part of the interview where he's asked if drug cheats should be banned for life. And Fury responds by saying, I wouldn't totally agree with that because we live in a democratic world. We have to be open for the future, don't we? So at the time, Fury disagreed with the idea of drug cheats being banned for life. Make of that what you will, but it's the same position as me. Maybe that's just me being selfish because there are certain fighters who I want to see what they like clean. I enjoy watching them fight. And if they get banned for life, I won't get the opportunity to see them in certain matchups. So that's just me being a selfish boxing fan, I guess. Tyson Fury's reason for not wanting drug cheats to be banned for life, hey, you'd have to ask him. Probably not the same reason as me. So anyway, that's my response or my take on the whole situation. I'll do some other videos regarding what's going on with Conor Benn right now and this doctor that was supposedly working with Conor Benn that specialized in, I think, TRT and what have you. Interestingly enough, and this really is bizarre, I mean, small world, the doctor in question was actually a member of my Facebook group. I remember him well. He was a big, like, stocky Asian guy. I remember him being a doctor even then. I remember him well. And just weirdly, he turned out to be this controversial doctor who apparently he worked with Tyson Fury and many other boxers, but Conor Benn was working with this guy supposedly. So small world. I've never met the guy in real life, but he was a member of my Facebook group and I remember him well on there, chatted to him many times. So yeah, anyway, shout out to everybody who joined me for the live stream. And hopefully I've clarified what this question is really all about, why I asked it. Those of you who advocate for P.E.D'S being legalized, again, you've already been doing it in the comments of the live stream. But if you want to continue it on, then make your case in the comment section below. All right? I'm out.